So I just got back from seeing The Batman, and I gotta say, this is the best movie of 2022. There is literally no competition. This movie was practically perfect from beginning to end. I know this sounds weird for me to compliment a movie, but fuck was this movie worth the wait. Although I don't fucking know how this movie was a PG-13 rating. While watching, I was pretty fucking disturbed on what was going on, and this movie has some pretty fucking disturbing moments. Or moments that will make you feel uncomfortable, and I love that. That's what a Batman movie should be. But this movie being PG-13 is fucking stupid if you ask me. This should have been an R18 because of the amount of uncomfortable shit there was in here. If you are at all worried like I was about the PG-13 rating, then don't be. I can promise you that this movie will have so much disturbing shit that will make you completely uncomfortable. I can also promise that this review will be completely spoiler-free. Well, mostly. I might spoil a couple things here and there, but I will give a warning if that happens. I'm also willing to say that this is the most comic-accurate Batman ever. I was a bit skeptical on whether or not they would do the character justice or not, but they did a flawless job in doing so. I feel like Matt Reeves completely gets the character of Batman as a whole, and I'm so happy for the Batman to finally get some proper representation in media. This Batman is disturbing and may shock you in the things he does. Batman barely talks in this movie, less than any Batman ever has. Even as Bruce Wayne, he barely manages to get out a single sentence. But while he doesn't say much in this movie, he says so much without even saying anything. Robert Pattinson is amazing as Batman. He completely fits the role as this broken Batman who feels like he doesn't belong there. At some points, you can really tell how little he talks to people, judging from his dialogue. Occasionally, he might sound a bit socially awkward, which I love. This movie, for the most part, feels like a real dissection of Batman's character. Hell, at points, Bruce even narrates the movie. He keeps these journal entries where he reports everything and writes down what he's feeling, and since it's his second year, he doesn't feel like he's doing much in terms of changing the city, and you can tell how hard he's mentally pushing himself. He looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. He talks like a person who hasn't had much human contact his whole life, and that is an amazing touch. It even shows you how Batman studies the people he's after, which can make you uncomfortable at points because it feels weird seeing him stalk his prey. He's a lot more brutal, and while he's a tiny bit reckless, he still manages to be cold and calculating at the same time. And what I really love about this Batman is that he actually makes mistakes. He's not perfect. Even when he fights, you can still see him get hit a bit. It really made me like the movie a lot more, because I hate when Batman is portrayed as this guy who can flawlessly take out enemies, and then all of a sudden he has to be nerfed to go up against someone who doesn't match his skill set. This Batman hasn't even managed to figure out the whole playboy/vigilante mindset yet. So when you see him as Bruce Wayne, he still acts like himself, and what I mean when referring to himself is Batman. It really seems like he doesn't care about keeping up appearances or anything like that. The only thing he's concerned about is making the city crime-free. If Bruce Wayne goes somewhere, he isn't going there just for no reason. He's going there only because it's useful to him. I really like his transformation because this film is about him transforming from vengeance to the Batman. You can tell people are scared of Batman in this movie. He isn't something that people see as a beacon of hope yet. They just see him as a maniac with a mask. Hell, they don't even know if he's a good or bad person. They're just fucking terrified of him. And at the end, he becomes more or less the symbol of hope. And I just love that. As a general audience member, you'll definitely be uncomfortable with what Batman is doing, but as a comic book fan, they are definitely doing this character justice. Usually in most Batman movies or media, they try to make Batman a bit less unhinged because they don't want to freak the audience out, but here they are completely fine with showing Batman's true colors. Another thing I liked about this movie was the cinematography. Jesus Christ! This is probably one of, if not the best cinematography I've ever seen for a film. Not a single shot goes to waste, it feels so orgasmic. Watching this movie was a treat for the eyes, because every shot was just pure perfection. Matt Reeves as a director is amazing. He really knows how to make great cinematography. The funny part is that most of the shit from the trailers is mostly just the first act of the movie. So you've got these moments where you can really appreciate the cinematography and just see some fight scenes you would have never seen before. I feel like the cinematography is what partly kept me invested, because there are some really creative shots used throughout the movie. And the score, oh my god, the score! The music for this movie is just incredible. I think I might have fainted a few times from how beautiful the soundtrack is. And while the soundtrack does repeat a lot of the songs, it never felt like they were being repetitive. It all felt appropriately used throughout the movie. The score is bombastic and incredible. It really feels like a Batman score. It really helps solidify the fact that this is Batman. This is the Batman. It really felt like I was watching a real-life Batman doing what he does, instead of me thinking, oh hey, that's Christian Bale in a Batman suit, or hey, that's Ben Affleck doing a really shitty job on what Zack Snyder thinks Batman as a character is. Robert Pattinson just really sold me as Batman. Never in the movie did I think, hey, that's Robert Pattinson. I was thinking, holy shit, is that Batman on screen? Is this real? And the cinematography and score really sold that for me. This is a dark fucking movie, although on the rare side of things it can be a tiny bit corny and cheesy, although that is usually a rarity most of the time. Most of the time the movie is fairly consistent with being dark, barely telling any jokes. In fact, I don't think there were any jokes. I mean, there were a couple of lines that got a chuckle from me, but not like actual jokes. I'm so glad that there aren't any. Too many superhero movies are stigmatized with them having so many jokes in them that they usually lose the focus on plot. But the Batman never told any. It felt consistent with its dark and gritty tone, and I respect it for not succumbing to any of the traps that superhero movies usually make. One of the more amazing feats that this movie manages to pull off is the Riddler being a genuine threat. Most of the general public would think that the Riddler is just some goofball, but in the comics and this movie, that says otherwise. They really make the Riddler feel threatening, and just completely insane. This movie really did feel like a Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty situation, where their brains are up against each other. It really feels like Batman has found another opponent who matches his intellect, as he should. Now, if I were to complain about something, then it would be about a couple things, but before I do, I will put a spoiler warning first. Don't worry, this is only a quick section where I talk about spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, then skip to the time code on screen here, and 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Now, I would say that the first 2/3 of the movie are perfect. It is literally a straight 10 out of 10. This movie really makes you think it's building up to something fucking huge, but when it gets to the big reveal, it's kind of underwhelming. I also thought it was pretty stupid that all this time online, the Riddler had this video where he planned this shit, and for some reason the police never thought to hack into his account and check for any clues, and the flood section of the movie was quite underwhelming for the big reveal. It's literally just Batman has to help out with the flood. While I do love the aftermath of the flood where he does save people and is viewed as a symbol of hope instead of something to be feared, I just found the flood to be quite underwhelming. Although, again, the aftermath of the flood was great, Batman's journey feels completely earned. I feel like this whole thing with the public now liking him was great, but I guess it was the way that they did it was underwhelming. I don't know. I guess I was expecting something more from all the build-up they were doing. I wouldn't say it completely ruins the whole build-up though. I still think it was satisfying enough, but I was just a bit disappointed, so if I were to rewatch this, I would probably love it the same amount I did originally going into this film. I don't know. I feel like it just loses its balance just a tiny bit for the last 20 minutes. Anyway, spoiler bit over now. Let's talk about the non-spoiler shit. Catwoman in this movie felt well developed as a character. She doesn't feel like she's there to just be some sexy figure for the movie. She actually has an arc and everything. They establish her motivations, and they really do understand her character. Even if you were going to this movie knowing absolutely nothing about Batman, you could still get up to speed on everything, and you can completely understand who everyone is and what their motivations are. Which is something I was also concerned about, because I really don't like how some movies rely on third-party media to explain shit, instead of